Good day, folks. So today I just wanted to do a quick video on a few hacks I use around the lab. This is not the most expensive hobby out there, but it can get pretty pricey, and sometimes it's not easy to find just exactly the right kind of cable that you need for a certain purpose. So what I tend to do is every time I get a little bit of wire or I have to cut something off something, I keep all this stuff, every single bit of it. I put it into these cans, and then when I want to build up something, I go searching through it. So here's power cable. There's some regular AWG 16, is it? Yeah. And here's some old test leads, some little RCA cables here, the end of one. And you never know when you're going to need to go from one strange device to another device. You just take a couple of these things and you solder them together, and then you have your connection, like a phone cord here. Yeah, so serial cable, it goes on and on and on. And let me show you some examples. Now, one of the things I really collect are power cables. So let me show you some of the power cables I've done up. So here's a regular 3-wire power cable. I don't know what it came off, but it didn't have an IEC connector on the end of it. It was installed inside some appliance or something. So when we threw the appliance out, I just pulled out the cord and I put a couple of spade lugs on it. I marked this one here is the neutral. And you got your neutral, your ground, and your line. And that's it. So if I need to hook up a power supply like this one here, then I can hook it up and I can test it out or whatever I'm going to do with it. I could even incorporate this into the finished project. But at least, I keep a bunch of these around in a box, so if I do have to experiment with something. I'll show you some of the other configurations too. Like for little power supplies like this, something like this works, where you just have a couple of tinned ends there. They go nicely into those and tighten down. And here's another one here for power. This one's a little bit more precarious with a couple of crocodile clips on it. And again, all this stuff was pulled out of some thing that we were throwing out, or somebody else was throwing out, and I grabbed it. And for some of the other ones here, like here's a USB to polarized 0.1 inch Molex connector. I use these quite a bit in little boards that I build up, and this is a great way to get a quick 5-volt supply. And here we go. Here's a cable I made up. There's a little bit of lamp cord. You saw the rest of it here. I don't know what I got it off of, but I attached a couple of banana plugs to it, and then I put the other end on a standard 5 by 2.1 DC jack. So I can plug this up here into my bench power supply and then plug it into whatever I need, set the voltage correctly. This one here I built the other day, and that's what gave me an idea to talk about this. I had a little device that used that connector, and I wanted to be able to do a quick current measurement on it with a clamp meter. So I got one of these. I have a stock of these. There might be a way you can find one lying around, or I usually have a stock of them for projects anyway. So I just attached it up to this and slipped my clamp meter on there, and I found out what kind of current was going into it. So it's very handy stuff to have around instead of trying to find just that correct cable on Amazon or some other place and paying a fortune for it. Anytime you get any kind of cable, wire, or anything like that, don't ever throw it out. Keep it. It'll come in handy. Now, the next hack has got to do with non-metallic screwdrivers for adjusting little potentiometers and little capacitors and little coils and stuff like that. Now, these are handy. This is just a little scope compensation adjusting screwdriver. And you can use them for that purpose as well. You can adjust anything with it that it'll fit into, but they do tend to be very short. So this next hack is making them longer. So I got this old paintbrush here, and really all you have to do is, okay, I'll show you what you do here. I've got this other paintbrush here that my daughter says is no good anymore because the bristles are starting to fall out. So fine, I said give it to me, and you just pull the bristles off it entirely, and then you're left with that. Now, for most cases, that's going to be too fat. So what you want to do is you want to get a pencil sharpener, and take it down to whatever size you want. You get a knife like this, put the knife midway across the wood there, and just gently go into it. Don't push too hard or you'll go too far. And you get it down in there maybe about 1/4 inch or so. Now what you can do then is you can pop this out. It's just a little tiny little piece of aluminum in here, or steel, I'm not sure what. And you see it's got a tapered end on it. Now you can pop that in here and you just push it into place and manhandle it around. Now it'll fit in there very snugly. You don't have to use any glue or anything like this. This one I think I did. I think I used just a drop of wood glue, like the aliphatic resin glue, just to hold the wood stable. But that's not going to go anywhere for most of your adjustments. That's going to be just fine. Like it's pretty sturdy. If you wanted to, you could use a piece of glue, a bit of glue to glue it in, or you could bind it up with a little bit of thread. But there you go. Now you have a long reach non-metallic adjuster. And if you need something bigger and even longer, with to put a bigger blade into or something like that, you can always trim up a chopstick like this and use it exactly the same way. So that's a pretty simple little hack there. And the nice thing about not gluing it is, if you don't have a ton of these around, what you can do is you should pop that back out, and back into your compensation adjuster like that. And no harm done, no foul. So, and then you have this handle around. If you ever need to switch back and forth, you can. Now my final quick little hack has to do with batteries. Replacing these horrible things that inevitably leak if you forget about them and destroy whatever they're in. I just recently had a really nice flashlight that I had put away somewhere and forgot about it. It was in a trailer that my son used to use for his motorcycle racing. And I was out there cleaning up that trailer because we're selling it, and I found the flashlight, and the Duracells in it ruined it. It was a very nice flashlight. And what had happened was they'd leaked, but the leak damage wasn't too bad. But the real damage was that they also swelled up inside it, and I couldn't get them out. So I had to throw the flashlight away. So I've been trying to eliminate these as much as I can in my life. Another place that I use them sometimes is in some older equipment like this Micronta here. This is one of the first high quality meters. High quality, I don't know if you could call it that, but back in the day it was a high quality meter. This is one of the first ones I got back in the early 80s, and I've had it all that time. And basically what I do with it is I leave it without batteries in it, and then I go to use it. It's fine for the volts range and stuff like that, but I go to do a quick check on some moments. There's no battery. I throw it aside, and I go get some other meter. So it'd be nice to be able to have batteries in it. And, you can't get these in C format. I know you can get those little plastic cases go around them. They're kind of, having a pot of those around, they're expensive, and they get lost, they get broken, you throw them out. But you can't just kind of put this in here by itself. Any kind of motion at all will fall out. So what I've been doing is, I'll get the batteries, and I'll just wrap them up in a little piece of thin bubble wrap, and I've also used like thin foam as well, and that allows me to stick this in here just like that, and this is not going to leak, and these generally don't leak. I've never had a 9-volt battery leak. I've heard some people who have, but I haven't. So I don't mind using those, and I'm going to try replacing these also with rechargeable lithiums as well. I just don't know how long they last on the shelf. Like once they're charged up, do they have a bad discharge rate? These actually have a good shelf life, and these have a shelf life of 10-15 years. They'll sit there waiting for you to use them. So, and not only that, but you can use them in flashlights. So I mean, literally you just pop them into your flashlight, and now they don't have as much juice in them, but when do we ever really need flashlights for long-term use? Very rarely, right? We got a flashlight up by the door or something like that, or in a closet or in the kitchen in case of a power failure, or if we have to go outside or something of that nature. So this is the ideal way, and my God, it sure makes the flashlight a lot lighter. Like this thing feels like ain't nothing to it. But So yeah, that's another hack, and I'll show you how I do it. One thing you got to be careful on the flashlights is not to make them too big. Like, they have to be able to come out, right? So you need to be able to get those batteries out of there. So what I do is I'll start off. A little bit of the tape, and now I'll put the bubbles on the inside if it's determinable what it is. Okay, so that way, because sometimes this thin bubble wrap, the bubbles are between two sheets. So you start off like that. Now, it doesn't have to be full length. Like, this one's a little bit shorter than the length of the battery. That's fine. It's not going to make any difference. And then start winding it. Start winding it fairly tight. You don't have to be ridiculously tight, just so that it holds itself together. It's not going to slip around and slide. And keep winding it and winding and winding it. And once you get to where you think you need to be, so how are we doing here? Okay, let me just wrap this up like this. So that's just a little too snug. If that battery was down at the bottom, it'd be difficult to get out. So I want to take maybe 3-4 inches off of that. Yeah, that's perfect. So now we just put another couple of pieces of tape on it, hold it all wrapped together. And there you go. Perfect. So this one I'm just going to put into my meter here. And it'll be there for me to use when I need it. All right, folks, that's all I wanted to show you today, was these simple little hacks that I've kind of come to rely on over my life, and they seem to work out pretty well. And maybe you guys could make use of them too. So it's a real short video today. And thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye-bye.